rocpodcasts.com.
AirWreckRadio. An intelligent man is sometimes forced to be drunk to spend time with fools. Ernest Hemingway.
It's a goddamn joke. It's quid pro quo de facto. This democracy's a hoax. Stacy says, man, it's time to act. Keep your wallet where your heart is. We can take the power back. So go get a bowl, a spoon, and some cereal, and sit your ass down. It's time for AirWreck Radio. It is the 14th day and the 7th month of the year 2014.
This is very that's a very Mayan conspiracy number you got there.
Yeah, well, see, I've been pimping all over the interwebs that we were going to change things up, and see, there you go, we changed. All right,
Yeah.
And moving on.
All right. Yeah, it's a different day.
Woo! Woo!
Big change is coming to AirWreck Radio. It's fucking Monday,
and
but it's a different Monday.
And they changed the introduction. I'm Corey.
I'm Corey.
Okay, and this is episode, now I've lost it, 63 something? I don't know. Who cares? See, I stole your line from
How about 68 and you owe me one?
Gross. We have a great show planned for you as far as I'm concerned.
We'll see if we actually do that, but we have a great show planned. We planned it. It's great.
It does happen. From time to time, we do strike gold. And let's just find out together, all of us together, in this listening experience, if that happens tonight. Shall we? All right. I pimped on the interwebs, i.e. Twitter, where you can follow me at CPainRun. You can follow him
on Twitter.
Or you can always follow, most importantly, follow at AirWreck Radio. I pimped Big Change.
Oh,
I said,
shit.
ooh, we're gonna make some changes.
I mean, oh, snap. We're not swearing anymore. Big change. Yeah. It's going to make it real hard to make this show.
Well, that was our show, folks.
Yeah. Thank you and good night.
But we're gonna wander into the unknown abyss and try a different format. Happens from time to time. We like to shake things up. So we're gonna do what is more popularly a podcast format.
We're gonna
try
what
to
does
see
that
where
mean?
try to see where this thing goes without structured breaks.
Oh, I see. That's what we're gonna do. No real breaks this show. No making people listen. You know what our show needs if it doesn't have breaks? Background music.
We could probably come up with a nice playlist we could play under.
Yeah.
Maybe with some pauses in it. Doesn't always have to play track.
Oh my God! Wait, that's a terrible idea. Do you know how hard this show would be to edit with background music already in it? That'd be a bitch.
I'm not going to get into the technicals. We could do it on isolated.
Are you
tracks.
sure you're not? I mean, we're 4 minutes in. I feel like we're already there.
We could do it on isolated tracks. Don't worry about that.
I'm worried. I'm scared.
All right, good.
Terrified. You know when I wasn't scared? The whole fucking day I was at Darien Lake with my wife on Saturday. Not scared a bit.
You went to Darien Lake? That's the amusement park near Buffalo?
Yes, that's the one. Out in old Corfu or wherever.
Corfu, New York.
Corfu. We went. We dropped the kids off at with my mom, and we went because we were going to the Jason Aldean ticket that evening. So we decided to camp. Have you ever camped at Darien Lake?
A couple times.
Yeah,
but it's been a long time.
I'd never camped tent camped there. I didn't know what to expect. It was terrific.
Yeah, it's very communal. I know that.
I'm pretty sure that when I left at 11 o'clock, there were still people trying to get out of the parking lot.
Hell yeah. Because they'd been partying. They were last ones to leave because we were getting out.
No, I heard it was a debacle getting out of there, but we'll save that for later. Yeah, we went to the park. We got to the park at like, I don't know, it was like 11 a.m. by the time we got to the park. Just me and Tammy with a campsite and a cooler full of beer going to see the country show at night. We had a blast. We rode all of one ride, though we spent the whole day walking around the park. Dropped a ton of money on park beer.
Gross.
It wasn't really...
Gross.
I was surprised. It was like event pricing, but not like rapey event
like
pricing.
$5 12-ounce beer? Or...
Like I bought the refill cup.
And third, you used rapey, and that's totally insensitive. You're inducing a culture of rape.
Yeah,
Please
whatever.
take that back, sir. Mm-mm. Okay. What am I paying here? What am I at Darien Lake paying?
It was like $8 and change for the refill cup, and then it was $1 cheaper to refill that cup than it was to get a refillable cup. So it was like $6 for a refill, but it would have been $7 for each cup. And I definitely drank more than 2 cups to make that a profitable adventure.
Well, if you paid $8 and you save $1 per fill,
yeah,
you need to drink 8.
No, you need to save 2 to make up or do you need to drink 2 more to make up the difference? It's not like I needed to earn the price. Don't worry, I earned the price of the cup. But that's not how I looked at it economically. I just was like, hey, I need something that I can carry beer in and out of this place with. This will be fine.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point, too. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, because then I can go back to the cooler.
You can side beer it and nobody has any clue.
Right.
Right.
See, well, they probably have a clue, but come on, everybody knows what's going on.
It's close enough.
It was great, dude. It was really, we had a blast together. We didn't, like I said, we rode the log ride once. That's it. That's all the rides we rode. We went and stood in the wave pool for a little while.
See, I really like a roller coaster. I really like a roller coaster. I'd have been riding all day long.
Nope. Walking around, getting drink, and looking at naked people.
And it
was great.
I wouldn't even drink that much in the park. I really like amusement parks. I really do. I like rides. I like water slides. I like playing the games with the kids.
I could go
I'm a
either
fun
way.
time in an amusement park.
I could go either way, but I'm like not like if I went with you, I'd be down. Let's go on some rides, dude. That's what we're doing here today. But like,
play some fucking games, beat up little kids.
This was all about get drunk but stay sober enough to still go to the concert, have a good time, and not puke and not have to be like carried home or nothing. Because like, the whole reason we got the campsite was so we wouldn't have to drive home.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
And thank God we didn't. Do you know?
That's the responsible way to get it done, sir.
I heard on the radio today there are 30,000 people at that show, and I believe it, dude. It was packed. And I like immediately thought about like, what else is there 30,000 people at? So I looked it up.
I knew those words were coming. I knew it.
You had to know. There are 32,000 American soldiers currently stationed in Afghanistan.
Oh, and I knew it wasn't going to be any goddamn fun either.
No. Only 750 in Iraq.
Oh, we're getting better there.
Not fun if you're one of those guys, but I mean, it's, But 30,000, I was like, man, 30,000 people of like, and this was a good looking crowd. This was like this wasn't some
not a bunch of slobbies.
Garth Brooks show,
I don't know what you mean by
You
that.
don't know
Please
what I mean.
elaborate.
Like Jason Aldean serves to a younger crowd.
Yeah, okay.
Say so these people were all like of working age, well enough to do that they were at a Darien Lake show.
Pricey.
I heard people, like the radio guys, the people on the radio show were complaining because their show was there, about how rowdy it was because they were out in the parking lot and stuff, and I didn't experience any of that because I was not in the parking lot. I was in the campground with the elite. It was great. I talked to a bunch of Canadians. They were real funny, man. They say dollars. I was like, dollars? I love it.
Yeah, $90.
You Canadians are so quaint. Your healthcare and dollars.
What I really want to do, you mentioned it and it popped in my head. I want to one of these days, let's go to one of these events and wait for the radio station that's set up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then run up really quick and set up our table and banner and microphones.
AirWreckRadio, giggity, giggity. Oh, right next to them.
And start doing our podcast right next to them.
That's a really dumb idea that
Get
I
the
love.
old lady to follow us with the camera and get them capture her going, the hell's that?
That's an awesome idea.
Maybe we get some airtime. Maybe
Yeah.
we get a video.
Bring free T-shirts, and just be like, hey, we're giving you T-shirts. What are these guys giving you? Commercials? You'll hear no commercials here. That's a good idea. I like that idea.
Not a one.
So anyway, 30,000 people. Mad, crowded.
What terrible numbers do you have more? Or is that,
That's. I mean, I could list some more, but I don't really see the need to. I just thought one to put it in perspective. There are
I'm
30,000 people at Darien Lake for that show. 32,000 people at Afghanistan for that show.
Yeah,
A whole country.
I know a guy who's going back there.
Ugh.
A 20-year-old guy who's going. Like he was there. He was in Iraq, came back, got back to work, was going to get put in the reserves for the rest of his enlistment.
Yeah.
And they called him back up to go back to Afghanistan.
God damn it.
Yeah. That's I was like, that's gross. That's gross.
That's service, dude. You got in.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it sucks, and there's got to be a way to get out of that mess. I hope. I hope. Anyway, in lighter news.
Oh, you got something?
I wasn't done with the concert.
Oh, I thought we'd moved on. Go on.
So while we're at Darien Lake, walking around, stumbling around, and just generally getting a nice, healthy buzz going on, and just enjoying the sun, we went into the Ye Old Thrift Shop or whatever it is there, their general store.
Yeah.
And I found the dumbest shirt I've ever seen.
Are you sure? Because I'm looking at the guy wearing the shirt he's wearing right now.
I'm wearing an AirWreckRadio shirt right now.
Dumb. Yeah. Oh, theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Folks, what he's really wearing is one of the shirts that show a naked man on the top.
That's not true at all. So I bought the dumbest shirt. I couldn't believe how dumb this shirt was. It is a bright orange shirt with it looks like a Reese's peanut butter cup shirt because it's all the right colors and fonts and everything, but it actually says Jesus where it would say Reese's, and in the little peanut butter cup where it would say whatever it says on the peanut butter cup, it says King of Kings. I fucking loved it. Oh, I couldn't help it, man. $18 I had to buy that shit. I got mad props in the whole rest of the day for wearing that shirt. It was dope. It's like a t-shirt rock star.
You were in it for the attention, were you?
Mm-hmm.
Bright orange, draws the eye, says something semi-spiritual on it. It's kind of like a middle ground. You get the people going, oh, he's being ironic because it's a Reese's. And the other people going, yes, Jesus the Lord.
Yeah.
High five.
Yeah. But I'm not Christian. I just thought it was
middle ground.
It was a really cool shirt.
You're in it for the attention. I'm in it for the love.
I was in it for the fact that it was a really cool shirt. And I just, obviously am not going to be the only one that thinks that that's a really cool shirt.
I like how it worked for you. You got to spin both sides of it. It worked out very nice.
Very nice. Had a blast at the show. The next morning, though, holy hurricane. Jeepers.
Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a twista.
Was there one? Was there actually one?
No, it was just a heavy thing.
There was warnings all over the place for it.
But there was a twista today in the, or at least warnings with heavy storms.
Yeah.
In the Rochester area.
Oh, global warming is fake, though, Corey.
It's terribly fake.
So made up.
Well, that's what you get for listening to Al Gore, the inventor of the internet. What? Huh?
Mark Zuckerberg invented the internet. Go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong. Yeah, do it. Go ahead. Take me serious and tell me I'm wrong.
I can't even look at you. I stopped and looked at you and realized the filth that came out of your mouth and just threw up a little bit in my mouth and carried on.
Do you know why we don't know the guy's name that actually invented the internet?
That's a good question.
Because I heard his name today. It was a very forgettable name.
That's probably why.
He didn't patent that shit. He was like, whatever, use it.
Oh, open source.
Yeah, he left it open source, and so he never made millions off of it. Meanwhile, Microsoft, who when they found out Netscape was making a web browser, they to protect their market, which they had no web browser market, they just had all the PCs and knew that the web was going to be a thing. So to crush Netscape out of the game, Microsoft created Internet Explorer, which sucked. So what did Microsoft do about it? Well, they made Netscape more or less non-compatible with Windows computers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dicks.
And
then on top of
Mac
that,
followed suit because eventually Netscape didn't work on Macs either. You had to use Safari.
yeah. Was there still Netscape by the time there was Safari?
That's what got Netscape booted off Macs.
Oh,
Because Netscape worked on Macs forever and ever, and then eventually Safari came out and it booted Netscape. Because Mac is even more paranoid about its source. Like, Windows is way more open source.
Oh, yeah, well, you know.
Than Mac is. However, that shit generally works. Just got to say. I've even gotten away from the Macs.
Well, of course that shit generally works. It's been fucking 15 years since it, since that shit went down. It better work by now, but it could work better if it was left to freer.
Happenstance.
Yeah.
For your market.
So what do you want to do, Corey? You want to news it up?
You know what? Sure, let's get into it.
All right, folks. It's time for headline news.
Headline.
Sorry.
Speaking of Microsoft, I found this on Gizmodo. Microsoft has a new AI on its way to identifying the whole world. This morning at the annual... This morning at the annual Research Facility Summit.
Oh my God, I love how well internet articles are written. I can't fucking believe it. Not that I'm a master linguist, but like I can write a letter.
Proofreading. You know what?
The computer does half the work for you. The only thing you have to do is read it a couple times out loud.
Here's the problem. This isn't actually the writer's problem. This is my problem for not having done what I usually do with a story.
And pre-reading it.
Copy and paste it, and then edit it so that it doesn't look so goddamn stupid when I try to read it. What this should say, this morning at the annual Research Facility Summit, Microsoft showed off a pretty impressive advancement in its AI tech. An app entitled Project Atom is poised to identify all of its surroundings just like a Fire phone without the merch hooks. I assume that means that like the Kindle phone, the Amazon phone.
Oh, so I was going to ask, what the fuck's a Fire phone?
That's the Amazon phone. That must mean that it comes with like little ads on the screen while you're identifying the world with its world identify so this Atom thing that Microsoft has, it talks about how it can identify. It successfully identified 14 dogs by breed in front of a live audience.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
with the research capability to the Internet of Watson and this kind of recognition software, you really got to move here.
Jesus Christ, the Autobots are coming for us.
Welcome to Skynet.
They don't even need Skynet anymore. It's not necessary.
We joke a lot about Skynet. Oh, this is the birth of Skynet. This is the birth of Skynet. This is the birth of Skynet. But I wonder if that has something to do with our age.
A little bit, but also with the fact that movie really did a good job of teaching the tech industry what not to do.
Dangers of AI.
Not really the dangers of AI so much as like, this is what they're going to be looking for. Don't do this or they'll know what you're doing. Do something else.
Yeah. Do something different. No, we already know about that trick. But like sometimes I listen to Bill, and Bill is quite a bit older than us, and quite a bit. I think like he's a million years old, but that's just to pick on him. But he has a little bit different perspective on technology and science that we do, and I think it's all an age thing. And I heard a great quote, and I wanted to share it. It was from I saw it on the Facebook from the IFLS Facebook. I fucking love science.
Oh. The fucking acronym.
Yeah, well, Douglas Adams, author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Uh-huh.
The quote is, I've come up with a set of rules that describes our reactions to technology. 1. Anything that is in the world when you were born is normal and ordinary and is a natural part of the way the world works. 2. Everything that is invented between your 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary. and you can probably get a career in it. 3, anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order of things.
Well, that's absolutely true, isn't it?
What? It's so descriptive and accurate.
Wait,
that's why I wanted to share it.
I'm not 35 yet, so I don't know how accurate that is.
I'm sure there's a little bit of a variance there.
I don't know. You know what, though? I don't like drones. So, they're kind of new.
But there's a lot of other great stuff that we do really appreciate. Like we do a lot of stories on prosthetics, like the Deca arm, and the robot guy, the Iron Man that kicked the first
don't think
ball.
they can't put those on fucking drones either. We having drones kicking soccer balls.
But we
Then what then? It's gonna be all cuckoo.
It's the American version of Quidditch.
Yeah.
We found a way to make soccer interesting.
You got a little flying turban up there. That's the golden snitch.
Sponsored by Budweiser.
Yeah. Speaking of drones, you can watch footage of an armed Iranian drone flying over Gaza. This is a story I found that I enjoyed the writing of.
Just chugging along on the fun time here.
Yep.
Right on the old positive Choo-Choo Express.
The military wing of Hamas just posted a 5-minute long video of an apparently armed drone flying over the Gaza Strip. I like that it's apparently armed. Like,
Not clearly armed.
isn't there like some kind of like technology you can use to like know if it's armed? I mean, I just feel like your sensors can't pick up if it's got photon torpedoes.
But we're not talking about arguing with the Vulcans. We're arguing with
Other humans.
Yeah, which
Right.
it's maybe their sensors aren't quite as good as ours. I think you're maybe taking for granted their side.
Maybe I am.
Maybe
ours aren't that good either. Maybe I just think that like maybe how they know it's.
They took a picture of the damn thing apparently, and they could see little missiles or something.
They took a
hanging off
5-minute
of
long video of it.
Ooh, maybe they could see armaments. You could see something that at least looked like armaments. So you have to go to supposing.
Well, if you just let me talk, the story's very next sentence goes, I was misleading when I said, how did they know?
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to have a conversation on our conversation.
No, I don't do this to talk to you.
Why do we do this?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it turns out we don't know either. No, for real. The story goes on to say it's impossible to know if the 4 real-looking missiles attached to, I like real-looking missiles attached to the drone's wings are armed. They sure look like they are.
Why would we bother putting fakies on? We already have the real ones. Just
I will tell
put 'em
you
on
why.
there.
Because it's a lot fucking cheaper. So if it gets shot down on your first test flight, you're not out the missiles.
Can I maybe ask you a question? Have you ever thought the American military budget was designed for efficiency?
These were not
Or do you
American
think-
drones.
Or do you think we might? Well, whatever. Actually, that's a good point. But
It's
I'm saying
pertinent, I think.
any government's budget. Or do you think, well, we already have the live ones, strap them on there. It's cheaper than making ones that we don't need.
Well, all right. I have a 2-part answer. First off, you can make a fake
Part
missile out of paper mache for literally the price of paper mache.
And somebody to make it.
And a kindergarten teacher of art, which I don't know, maybe there's a premium for them in the Middle East. I bet there's a lot of them looking for work though. And secondly, you got to understand that like you're thinking from an American military spending point of view where we spend as much as the rest of the world spends.
Yeah, that might be a good point.
So like to hear that Hamas might just paint up a paper towel tube to look like a missile they put on a drone.
Good point. You're right. That's
right.
a good point.
So that they can, you get the
Look
Israelis,
like you're,
you get the, I got that wrong.
enemies. We could go
enemies.
There you go.
You get the enemies accustomed to seeing your drone with its little paper mache missiles.
Oh, look how cute it is.
And they're just like, oh, there they are. They're flying around again. Should we shoot them down? Nah, we don't want to waste the missile. And then one day, it's not paper mache missiles. But just in case,
Bombs away.
it's certainly cheaper to have a drone shot down with fake missiles than real missiles.
That's a very good point, sir. I guess I was looking at it from a white American perspective.
Well, from a
American perspective.
From the country with the military industrial complex.
Yeah, we spends half its budget on the entire world, yeah.
You know, it's funny. Eisenhower called it that, but he might have actually meant a mental state, like a complex. You know, like not like a fortress, but like
not a structure.
Like a inferiority complex that we feel like we need to like tout out all these guns and stuff all the time. Anyway,
Either usage, completely apt.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. Either usage, because it is a foundation and a structure, and it is also probably a complex. It's called compensation. Sometimes you hear jokes about, men with little penises driving big trucks or shoot guns or whatever. Maybe a little Napoleon complex there. We kind of got beat up by the British. We kind of, you know what I mean? We weren't. Well, that's why we revolted, is because they were terrible to us.
Well, I mean, that was a long time ago.
And it wasn't like we just won the war easily. If it wasn't for the French, we'd still be British.
I don't really understand. Like, the politics by that point were so, like, that wasn't really part of it by the end of World War II when Eisenhower was saying that. Well, really, by the end of his term when he was saying that, which was after World War II, like well after World War II.
But I'm just saying we are a country that started with warfare and has continued to have major warfare every
all countries
20
start
years.
with warfare.
Not necessarily true.
Name one.
I don't necessarily have the information to answer.
I don't have the information to argue either, but I'll tell you right now.
I take it back. Canada, right now, for the win. Ding, 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 ding,
You're
ding.
telling me that Canada was freed without a struggle.
Yeah, they signed a contract.
That might be true. They're so fucking cool, those Canadians. Well, we'll give you we'll give you some dollars and you'll give us your freedom, eh?
That's exactly what happened.
And the French are just like, well, I guess we could use the dollars. I don't know if that was actually a French accent or not.
1/10 of Canada was owned by the French. That's called Montreal or Quebec. Quebec. The rest of Canada was English owned, and 70% of the Canadian population lives within, I think it's 20 miles of the Canadian-American border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's cold up there.
Exactly.
They're just snuggling in for warmth, dude. That's all.
That's exactly what they do. So it was actually the English that they bought their independence from.
Word.
But they peacefully gained their independence. So, for the win, booyah!
That's one.
You said name one.
All
I
right.
did.
You know what? I did say one. I did say to name one. But I think that you'll find that it doesn't really detract from the fact that the trend is that countries start in violence.
Then you tell me how many other countries have a major war every 20 years or so, if not more often.
Well, the ones that we get involved with, really.
But every 10 to 15 years.
Iraq has that happen. South Africa had that going on for a while.
Our
The whole
national
fucking
anthem,
Middle East, actually.
Our national anthem is all based on a battle. The thing has references to bombs.
I do believe we have
and
the
violence.
only the only national anthem based on a battle.
Mm-hmm. That literally, it immortalized the flag in the glare of a glorious battle of, explosives and firearms and death and destruction.
The bombs were bursting in air, Corey. Nobody got hurt. It was like a cartoon.
Oh, they were fireworks like the 4th of July.
Duh.
Oh, I understand now. I think we're what one would call warmongers.
I don't think we are.
I think we are. Well, I don't think me and you are. I think we're kind of pacifists.
I actually don't think that our warmongers are warmongers. I think they're capital driven. They don't do it because they love war. They do it because they love money, and war is a great way to get
is means to an end means to a title?
Here's the thing, dude. In school, it's hard to make money unless you shake down the littler guys. Then you can make some money. And, we just treat the world like it's our school sometimes.
Or for I'm trying to come up consumerism, capitalistic reasons, I guess.
It is capitalism. It's
for capitalistic reasons, I guess. And there's another term I'm looking for, and I can't find it.
It's a little bit like manifest destiny, but it's not manifest destiny because that's westward expansion.
We're willing to strategically, I guess not mean you, but the heads of state, the powers that be, for some reason, over and over again, were willing to spill lives, suppress knowledge, suppress education. We're willing to literally prepare a war in order to enter it. We will sell our enemies weapons decades before and train them decades before we declare them our enemies.
Oh,
we've done it time and time again.
We give in the Middle East. We give foreign aid to like every country around Israel, and then they just keep fighting at each other. Like Israel is, and I quote, our strongest ally. I don't know how they could possibly be that strong. They're surrounded by enemies all the time. They're always at war. How fucking strong can they really be?
And this is a strategy that the powers that be in our government or whatever, the powers that be in our lives, this is a strategy that's been employed for a long time. War has always made money. It's just shifted at how it does. Back in the early industrial age and thereon, war made money by stimulating the economy. The men went off to war. The women went to the factories. You built things in-house. Everything was done in-house. The army didn't cost any money because the laundry was done by the army. The food was done by the army.
Well, it still stimulates the economy. It's just it does it the way a flat tire will still get you there.
Well, now it stimulates the billionaire economy of privatization instead of it being a nationalized thing, which war was.
No, I mean just making the war machines, not like going to get the natural resources. That's what that is. That's why we do this, is to get those resources. But they justify it at us by saying, it's good for the economy to have this huge military spending. If we didn't have this, the economy would fumble. But that's not the economy did fumble.
It used to be good for the people. It is good for the economy in both ways. The old way, it was good for the people. There were jobs created because of it, even though men went off to war, and that's not great. But I'm saying on an economic level, there were jobs created because of it.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the machine that makes the machines.
But on a privatized level, which is what we do now, the profit is only good for the billionaires who are the privatized companies that can send the contractors. That it doesn't spread out to the people like it used to.
Well,
but that's the strategy that's been employed
for
both those reasons.
It doesn't. See, it does get spread back out to the people because people have to build those things. Like that does create jobs. However,
not like it used to.
Yeah, no, more. Just it's not enough. You see, it's not like your whole economy can't be taxpayer subsidized military spending. There are a ton of jobs in the military support sector, the building the machines, all that. But all of that stuff is like, all they're building is shit that we're going to blow up or throw out. All of it is shit that's going to need to be replaced, so it self-perpetuates.
Because of the capitalism, the privatization of that means that the money we're spending is overpriced. When we used to do it in-house, when it was nationalized, we were paying dirt cheap prices per unit of whatever, per a piece of laundry wash, per slop cooked for a troop, for uniforms built. When shells created, we were paying base price because the government was nationalizing it across companies.
You got to take that in context, though. That's like when soldiers were pouring their own shot.
This is what World War II is the best example of this.
World War II, America went to work to make those, and it was private industry that made all that stuff. It was just
through
heavily
subsidized.
There was heavy regulation. It wasn't national subsidy. It was heavily regulated, and so it seemed like one machine, but it wasn't one machine. It was a bunch of private companies.
So two things. Okay, I'm sorry.
And those private companies, they couldn't compete for workers with wages. They couldn't say we'll pay you more to come work for GM instead of Ford or Chevy or fucking Tyco or whoever. I don't know if Tyco is an American company at all.
It's not.
Whatever. So they controlled the federal government controlled wages for those workers. They controlled work hours. They controlled all this and that, but they weren't federal employees. They were still private employees for private businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. But we spread it across what the infrastructure that we already built with government regulation based.
Yes, that was subsidized because it was, roads and shit.
When we fully capitalize the situation and just hire contractors for everything, they both have to pay. They have to do one of two things. Either they have to send the work elsewhere and hire out-of-towners, quote-unquote.
Who's they? The contractors?
The contractors have to pay out-of-towners, quote-unquote, a lesser wage that's more affordable, or they have to pay, in order to have an American workforce, they have to pay more money.
Oh, you mean immigrants. When you say out-of-towners, you mean immigrants.
Well, in this case, the work that I'm thinking of is probably happening a lot overseas. Like Halliburton, for example, who gets the contract for rebuilding things. Construction companies, they get the contract for rebuilding things.
Yeah.
You got contractors overseas. Now, in order to make those American workers, the pay is going to have to be nice. Going into a battle zone to build a building, the pay is going to have to be nice.
Sure.
Now, if you maybe you outsource that and you get a bunch of Indian guys, maybe the pay doesn't have to be so nice.
Honestly, why don't you just get a bunch of Iraqi people who need jobs now? Which is probably a lot of what their contracting comes from.
If the military built the buildings, if the military had a division, and they do have those divisions, but strong enough, like they used to, if the military built those buildings, they'd be built at dirt cheap prices as far as the economy goes, as far as what we're charging the government for these buildings, because they're making a soldier's wage, which I'm saying is inexcusable. I'm just saying, for example, that's a way that things used to get done cheaper.
Soldiers aren't there to build shit, unless they're like
But there's divisions of all. There's divisions
of
the armed services that are there to build shit. I don't know what they're called for anything but the Navy.
Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers,
and the Navy calls them CVs.
Yeah.
But
even those people aren't long-term constructors. Those people are soldiers who have building skills.
But in the past, a lot of times, when we did rebuilding projects, when we did construction like that, instead of hiring a private company that had to hire a contractor at this wage, or had to take the work out of America, which we can both agree is not the best fucking course of action, for a cheaper one, when we used to have whole divisions that did it for cheaper.
Except, here's the problem. We make the American taxpayer pay to blow the shit up, and then we make the American taxpayer pay to fix it up, and we call that a functioning economical tool.
What just happened here is you went a level lower in the conversation. Like, we were here talking about...
No, we were talking about the economics of it.
Of what exists, and then you were like... But then you went to what we really should do, which is a layer below, and you're right. We should stop paying to blow things up, and we should stop paying to fix them. Then this conversation would be moot.
No, I honestly think that like the military-industrial complex could probably be at least partially converted over into a fixing shit. Like, America wouldn't be any safer if we spent only as much as 6 other countries on defense.
As long as they were the 6 big ones.
Yeah. And that would be way fucking less than spending as much as half, like, as the whole rest of the world.
Easy.
We spend on defense as much as the rest of the world spends on defense.
In contrast, I'd really like to know how much we spend in fast food.
$25
per person.
No,
per year
total.
Oh wow! Perhaps more than that, Stace. I just, out of curiosity, in a contrast, I really wonder. Maybe we can look it up at some point. How much money Americans spend on fast food in the same year, like compared to the military budget?
What do you expect that to look like? Just out of curiosity.
I'm just wondering if it's because if the discrepancy is so large, just because the discrepancy in the income of the country is so large. We are by far per person, maybe not by far, but we're per person one of the richest countries on the planet. We have a quality of life like none other. So there's proportions here. Is one of the reasons we can spend so much money on our military.
I don't know, man.
Because we have so much money to spend.
When you talk about our quality of life, I think you need to consider better the Scandinavian nations.
Oh, well, and you might have a very progressive thought there, and I don't want to argue with you. I'm just saying,
this year, Americans will spend over $110 billion on fast food.
110 billion.
More than they'll spend on movies, books, magazines, newspapers, videos, and recorded music combined. Well, it's because you need to eat, you read a book a week.
You said 110 million.
Billion.
Billion.
With a
110
B.
billion.
Yeah, that's 1,110 millions.
Okay, it's probably so. Okay. And again, the numbers are going to get too hard to do on the show. But I wonder percentage-wise how much larger that is than anybody else. It's got to be ridiculous.
Well, we have a large population, too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I wonder if the numbers are a little inflated because they can be, because we have so much income and we have so many people and we have so much. I wonder if that's why maybe some of the numbers are so big. Also, the value of the dollar keeps dropping, so the numbers keep going up.
Yeah.
What was worth $1 is now worth 10. Just rough.
That's very rough. That's very rough.
But it's just an example of, so the numbers are getting bigger too. So I wonder if maybe the perspective on the budget is a little askew when we think of it in our very liberalistic, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, ways. Nothing? I lost you?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because,
I'm sorry.
the numbers are big because they're big, because there's a lot of people.
What? But that's what I'm saying.
There's a lot of people spending a lot of money, like $110 billion.
You say we spend more in the budget on our military budget than all the other military budgets combined in the world.
Well, we call it our defense budget.
Okay.
And yes. Did you? I'm sorry.
I'm not saying this is defense budget. Now, I'm not saying it's not bloated. I'm just saying maybe it's not quite as bloated as me and you think it is here in the number.
No, Corey, it's as much as the rest, adjusted to dollars to donuts. You can't, there's no spreading it around or changing it because you're talking about dollars and they're talking about yen. It's all been adjusted.
That's not what I mean. I mean,
it's not because we don't have the biggest population. We're the third largest population country in the world.
I'm not saying we have the largest. I'm just saying we're one of the wealthiest.
Not for long. Not if we keep spending money like this.
If we assume that China's the other wealthiest and we're number 2.
We're number 1.
We're number 1?
China's number 2.
Okay. Proportionately, if we have the largest military budget, it's because we've got the most money to spend, and that's not necessarily unbalanced. And I'm not saying it's not.
Okay, but we're not talking. That's not because we're not talking about America and China should have equal military budgets, and if we spend a little more than China, that should be okay. That's not what we're talking about.
Spend?
Not as much as the entire fucking rest of the world. We spend as much as all of the other countries together spend on defense. Now, correct, a lot of them don't need to spend a lot because England doesn't need to have a planned defense against America. They don't really need one.
You couldn't in that case.
But to continue to sell the idea that we should continue spending this much on defense, if we spent more than India, China, the entire Middle East, and all of Africa, we would still spend, we'd still have, we wouldn't be any less safe.
What did Africa spend? $7?
Sure.
Perhaps more than that.
So far this year, because it seems like you need a number to gravitate to. So far this year, we have spent $417 billion. 100,000 million billion. You know it's a big number when you got to count it from the other side. $417 billion this year alone.
So on our military defense, we spent 4 times as much as our fast food allowance.
No, not 4. That's for the whole year.
So, okay, so 1/4 of what we spent. You said 400 billion.
So far this year.
Oh, I thought you said for a year.
No, that's the 100. All right,
That's
whoa. We're getting confusing.
I got lost.
All right, let me sum it up for you.
All right.
Going at the rate that we're going at right now,
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
by the end of the year, Americans will have paid for $834 billion worth of defense spending
So 1/8. Okay.
and $110 billion on fast food.
Fast food.
And
So,
hey, do you know how many fucking
do you kind of see
how much the world's going to hate us for blowing up our own cholesterol?
But what I'm saying is maybe the numbers are partially they're so big and shocking, is because all of our numbers are so big and shocking.
China has 1 billion people.
Besides
That's
that
big
one.
and shocking.
Besides that one.
We have 300 million.
And I'm not saying it's not gross. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the consumption rate is not disgusting.
It doesn't contribute to the economy because it's just something that the people who do contribute to the economy, the people that do work, like, and I'm not saying that like there shouldn't be defense spending. Don't take me that way. But half as much as the entire world, or as much as the entire rest of the world. I'm sorry, not half as much. As much. We count for half of the world's military spending. We count for 1/5 of the population.
But we also economically probably count for half of the world's fast food consumption or frivolous money spending outside of economic survival.
Corey, you're losing me. What is the correlation that you're trying to draw between spending tax money on military spending compared to spending private dollars on food for yourself?
I'm just trying to. I
don't get it.
We started this because I was just trying to say is maybe the numbers are so shockingly big. It's because all of our spending numbers, because of the way our economy is so shockingly big.
Yeah, but our military spending is not big because our they have nothing to do with each other. So they are both big numbers.
I'm using fast food as one example of a frivolous thing that we have the luxury of wasting our money on. And that's one example. Now, maybe you could argue there's some addiction, but
it's not addiction. There might be some of that, but it's not. Do you think people spend $1 a day on food because that's what they want to do? That's a luxury. Some people do that. Like there's people out there who eat at McDonald's because that's what they can fucking afford.
That's
not a luxury.
McDonald's
that's
isn't
food
the world's
desert.
McDonald's isn't the world's most profitable company off of the people that are buying one cheeseburger a day.
No, Walmart is
a food company, food restaurant. That's what I was fine. Most profitable restaurant of all time.
I'm not saying McDonald's is evil. But it's not necessarily it's not a sign of affluence.
I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is that they're not making their money. They're not making that kind of money off of one cheeseburger a day from the homeless guy. They're making that money off of the fat American middle class who are buying 10 cheeseburgers because they got the money to waste because that's how inflated our friggin' economic system is. Which explains why we feel like we have the vibrato to spend the kind of money we do on our weaponry.
Maybe 5 years ago, that would have been I think that would have probably had a lot more. But now it's now we have that bravado because I think that people are experiencing a situation where they feel like they used to be about stuff, bravado. I'm America. I'm gonna spend it. I'm gonna eat this cheeseburger because go me,
go America,
because I can.
Capitalism and woo.
I feel like looking around, man, people aren't feeling that way, and the job numbers certainly don't suggest that the people that eat at McDonald's do it because it's where they would like to eat.
Well,
but Chili's is fucking expensive. Good food is expensive. Not that Chili's is necessarily good food. But, I enjoy Chili's, but that's what I mean. Good food,
go to the grocery
sushi.
store and buy better food for you and see how much money it costs.
Yeah, a lot more. Even the prepared food, especially the prepared food.
Yeah. And I guess maybe that's part of the thing I'm saying is fast food, for example, and I just use this as a single thing because it include all the things that we spend our money on. We'd be better off spending our money on vegetables And a lot of us, and I'm not saying that
Some people don't have the access to vegetables.
and you're right, but a lot of people, and I'm thinking that this is probably where most of the stimulus comes in this economy, especially for a private industry like McDonald's, who caters to a certain class or certain classes of individuals.
Well, they definitely don't make their money off the rich.
No, they don't. A lot of that is coming from the majority of us who have the money or close to the money. We could make it eating decent food. It's just we don't because of either convenience that it offers or maybe possibly, and I've heard a lot of this, of addiction because of, chemical triggers and benefits.
Well, you're made to like fatty ass goddamn. You're like made for it. You're just, but still, like,
and it's exploited.
you're also, like made to fuck whatever you like to fuck, regardless of how the fucky feels about it.
Yeah, it's
But
also true.
But you overcome that basic urge.
In our culture, we call it the fucked.
Right. But you come over, you that's like part of the human condition is being able to get over those basic urges. And, I'm not saying that, like, I've always found that I have an easier time resisting the temptation to commit a rape than I do eating a cheeseburger. I might have a cheeseburger. That might happen. But still.
I'll vacuum for you. We kind of got a little tangenty there. I was just trying to say is that since we are probably the nation that spends the most money on everything, it doesn't surprise me that we spend the most money.
We don't spend the most money on education or public assistance, welfare. We don't spend the most money on welfare. We don't spend the most money on public assistance at all. We don't spend healthcare, not the most there. We don't spend the most money on all kinds of good fucking things. We spend the most money on fucking war. We call it defense, but it's war. That's what we spend our money on.
And I wouldn't disagree with that as far as our government. That's what our public.
Well, we're talking about a government. We're not talking about what. Like, I'm not going to spend $1 on military expenditures this year.
You're going to spend a lot of money on military.
And if I was Canadian, I wouldn't spend $1 on it.
$1, not even $1.
Not a single
not
dollar.
$1. Yes, you are gonna, because you're gonna pay your fucking taxes, and guess where your tax money goes?
But that's not the same as personal spending. I mean, you can argue that it's intrinsically the same as personal, but it's not
It's
because
by a proxy.
But I don't like. I'm not going to go to the store and purchase. Hello, I would like one military, please. Oh, I'm sorry, we're all out. Oh shit, I'm in Canada.
I'd like the Marines, and we're all out of Marines. I'll take the Navy.
It's just fucking gross, man. It's so lopsided.
And I'm not even really.
It's so bad, dude. It's so like America wouldn't be any less safe if we cut our defense budget in half.
Oh, no question. I won't argue with that.
Not a single soldier would lose their job. Not a single gun would go out without its ammo. I had a story. Oh, man, maybe I have a picture of it.
But I see, okay, here we found something we disagree on. I agree with you about we wouldn't be any less unprotected. There would be less soldiers. There would be less guns. There would be less missiles. There would be less drones. There would be less fighter planes. There would be less. Because just cutting the budget, that's how the math works out. Changing the way we spend the money, maybe we could do it differently. But if we spend the money the same way we do it now, and we just cut the budget, clearly we're just going to have to do less. But you're right. It's so gross. It's so majority. It's so large that even if we did cut the budget, even if we did do less, we still wouldn't be any less safe as a nation with borders and land as our core thing. Or maybe some of our assets, like our bases in Germany and Japan and the Middle East and all over the freaking world, those things might have to be shut down or reduced or whatever. And there would be soldiers that would lose their jobs. They would have to come home and they'd have to rely on the VA. But we still would be still as safe because it's such a gross lead. And then we'd have the extra budget to take care of the soldiers that have to rely on the VA.
Yeah, that's a whole nother bag of chips there, that VA. But they're making progress on that, maybe.
But I'm just... You're absolutely right. We would not lose out shrinking our military budget, even probably by half.
They have a you know what a mobile howitzer is? It's a big artillery, fires a shell straight into the fucking air, and then like 2 miles away, a bunch of people get blown up.
It's one of the reasons why people just don't fuck with us.
Right.
Gotcha.
So,
and there's a quality and a value in that.
Sure.
I mean, don't get fucked with for a reason.
There's something to be said about a strong defense, but does it need to be? Do we really need to be prepared for a uniform attack by the entire rest of the world, with the entire rest of the world throwing all its strength at us? And if we do need to be prepared for that, can you prepare for that?
Okay, I guess that's a perspective thing. Are you a worst case scenario guy?
Well, that's the worst case scenario.
The worst case
if the
scenario.
entire rest of the world, because that's what our defense budget suggests we think might happen. We need to have at least as much as them, maybe a little more for all of them. We need to be able to defend against the whole fucking world at once. What?
If you're a worst case scenario kind of guy, you might say it's better to be prepared for the worst case scenario so that when anything comes along, you can handle it.
If the whole rest of the world decides that they're going to go to war with us, they're just going to erase us, and there's not going to be a fucking thing we can do about it.
Well,
if you have to defend against the whole rest of the world, you can't defend against the whole rest of the world. You can't do it.
We can certainly put up a fight, sir.
Not unless we have the backyard bomb. That's the thing that that lunatic that fucking created the most of the nuclear. What the fuck was his name? Oh shit, I can't fucking think of it. Whatever.
Leader of the Manhattan Project. Sure.
Not the leader. That was that guy was less of a lunatic. The guy that took his place and then threw him under piss in a bucket. Man, I just can't think of it.
Whatever, move on.
He was like, we'll just make a bomb so fucking strong that you won't even have to deploy it. You just walk out in your backyard and pull the trigger. Boom. Everybody's gone. This fucking maniac, Oppenheimer. No, that was the not maniac guy. The guy after him. Okay. The guy who was like him. That's the guy. He's not suitable for this position. I just can't think of it. He's a real life Dr. Strangelove is who he is. Had this idea for a bomb that you would just set off in your own backyard. You wouldn't even need to deploy it because you're not going to live anyway. Nobody is. It'll do the whole fucking thing. The backyard bomb. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the howitzer, they have a new smart missile. I think it's called a Paladin, and it costs.
How about level 17 Paladin?
Yeah, this is a level $2.6 billion to fill a single magazine
of awesome ass kicking destruction. Brought to you by America.
The howitzer, we have 975 Paladin mobile howitzer platforms. This new this new kind of missile we got is like this new smart bomb. It's like really, really, it's not a bomb though. It's a projectile. It's really, really good at killing people from a convenient distance. $2.6 billion to fill a single magazine for each of America's 975 Paladin mobile howitzer platforms, equaling a total of $2.5 trillion just to arm this one kind of device that we have less than 1,000 of, just slightly less than 1,000 of. 2.5 trillion. We spend 78 billion in education. 78 billion is not as much as 1 trillion. We spend a third of what we spend on this one kind of ammo on education.
As much as I'm enjoying arguing with you.
Fuck, it makes me...
I got nothing. I'm out. And you win.
I
got nothing. I'm out.
That's just one round. One kind of ammunition for one kind of artillery, and we spend 2/3 of what we spend on that ammunition. I'm sorry, 1/3 of what we spend on education.
I got nothing. I got nothing. I've gotten, like I would say, well, maybe we got to keep the schools and the children safe. If like they were being productive, if what we were spending was enough on the education and we had to keep schools.
I don't think howitzers are going to keep the school. I mean, they certainly do the job, I guess, from a distance.
Well, certainly that's one of the reasons why nobody fucks with us, because
Right.
we have things like that.
Sure, that's true.
If the schools were producing well.
Do we need 975 of them? And do they all have to have this super bomb rocket that's only good for a distance? Like,
Well, see, that's going to be really convenient.
do we need $200 trillion worth of that one round? That's just one round.
Okay, if a large enough town were to, get all gossipy and thinking about things and how unhappy they were with things, and got to talking and gossip, and it was an entire town, maybe a big enough city, small city, but big enough to be noticed, kind of all got on the same page as far as we're done taking this kind of thing. Some kind of terrible accident could happen where, I don't know, some terrorists shot something out.
They hate us for our freedoms.
Hate for freedom. Something
Freedom
like,
ain't free. Well, I mean, it is for the multi-rich.
something like that weapon sounds like it would come in really handy. God.
Well, I don't think that's what anybody designs that weapon for. But don't think there's not a contingency plan for it. It really just whatever they do with it. Whatever they do with it, even if they only use it for testing, even if they end up deciding, hey, you know what, we don't need all these,
just wagging our stick around.
We're just keeping that machine turning. We're just making them dollars.
Oh, and a manner of wagging your stick around. Hey, everybody, look what I got.
Oh, I got the dumbest population on the planet.
Death with it, and I'll beat you to death with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have the highest. I have an infant mortality rate that's higher than 3 countries that I would never want to live in.
But here's another thing I ask. What are their populations? Because we have 300.
It doesn't matter what their populations are. That's how rates work. It's a per capita. It doesn't make a difference if there's 10 to our 10 million. I mean, at that point, it kind of does. But
and where are you getting this information that we have a higher mortality rate? Like, what is this?
I don't know, man. Books, magazines. I get it from news articles that I read. I've got this statistic from numerous sources, but I don't actually have the source ready to cite.
I don't read, listen to as many audiobooks as you, but I'm not without my resources myself.
I know. I'm not saying
all
you're
my
not
health and
researched.
medicine resource tells me that we have medically some of the best rates in the world, and I don't know this one specifically, but it just seems to me a little backwards. That's why I'm saying I'm not.
What do you think about our medical system is the best in the world?
Not how much the level of treatment, the ability to do things.
The ability to do things.
The scientific advancements, the technological aspect.
The world's elite.
I'm not talking about the money of it.
No, the world's elite come here for medical treatment. However, more of the world's poor die as infants here than they do in Cuba, Belarus, or Malaysia.
But what of? That's my question.
Infant stuff. I don't know. Death. Poor sanitation.
You see all this
fucking whatever. It doesn't matter what of. They die as infants, and that's a sign of poor medical care.
I guess I'm curious because, again, I always see statistics about how, this terrible, the last 30 known terrible infant diseases were eradicated. So that's why I guess I ask why I'm curious as to, is it something that it's poor medical care, or is there something that's so turnabout that it's just going to happen continuously forever?
Well, it's certainly not something you can just dismiss away because we are like one of the worst countries for it. So like there must be some cause there. It doesn't matter what the individuals, I mean, it certainly does to them or to their parents, it definitely matters then. But for the sake of talking about statistics, it doesn't matter what each of them. We're worse than Cuba. Cuba sucks. Malaysia sucks, dude. I'm pretty sure you can like go fuck a little lady boy there for little money. I've never researched it 3 or 4 times, but
Can we please name this episode Cuba Sucks?
maybe. But I'm saying, like, all 3 of those countries, those are not places you would want to live. But if you were a baby, you would have a better chance of living there. That's fucked. Not like, necessarily living well, but you would survive.
I guess all right.
I imagine that a lot of the causes are things like people that don't get to the hospital on time, people that don't
maybe because diabetes is an issue and our poor diet.
I'm sure there's some malpractice involved, but probably not more here than there.
I feel like what happened here is I've walked into a war that I'm just ill prepared for.
I'm sorry to tell you. I think
It's
you
just
might have.
Ideologically, it doesn't sound like something I believe in, but I don't have any weapons to fire back
I
at
recommend you go look in the weapons locker for that one and see if you can defend your position.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to hear if you could come up with something.
Yeah, I just feel like I feel like I'm just swinging blindly in the dark here, trying to whack you with something.
This is a well-respected statistic.
I'm not saying it's not. It's just I've got to do my own research on this one.
Okay.
Like that's where I'm summarizing.
Good luck with that.
Woohoo!
Would you like to do a news story?
Wahoo! Yeah, actually, there's been one that's been kicking around the news a lot that we haven't done, and I don't know if you haven't heard about it, and I avoided it, or I just at the time I didn't think we wanted to do it, or maybe it was a busy week, whatever.
Well, that happens. We leave some stories behind sometimes. Regale me.
You, sir, will be regaled. Former U.S. Marine jailed in Mexico since March.
Maybe was he going for Cinco de Marcho?
Cinco de Marcho.
Yeah.
Reuters, a former U.S. Marine held for more than 3 months in a Mexican jail on weapons charges, appeared in court in the border city of Tijuana on Wednesday, according to his lawyer. Andrew, name I can't say, Tom Morisi, 25, a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, was arrested on March 31st by Mexican customs agents who found guns in his pickup truck.
Plural.
Guns. In the San Ysidro.
The what?
YSIDRO. Ysidro. Mr. Spanish Man.
Ysidro.
Say it again. It was sexy.
Ysidro.
Oh, God, that was thick.
I am Ysidro.
Gives me the stirrings.
I've come to take your guns.
The border crossing between San Diego and Tijuana.
So he had guns.
He gun registered legal firearms
Where? Registered where?
in the United States.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Can I get to the next line before
Sure.
you start telling me something?
Would you?
His trip to Mexico
Mm-hmm.
was accidental and unplanned.
Okay.
He took a wrong turn, wound up at the border, said, I just need to turn around to go home. As soon as he pulled in, they arrested him.
That might be true, but it might not be true, too.
That's the story that I'm getting.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the story you're getting. There's a great incentive to tell that story the way you're telling it. I'm sure that's the story the soldier said.
And I know, well, it probably is. And I know that you would love to, and so would I, because that was my original gut instinct to say, oh, American propaganda. We're blowing this up.
No, not propaganda. Just,
Make us look like the good guy.
Well, all right, some of that, but
however, in the same time that this was happening, Obama made the trade for the one guy who may or may not be a traitor for 5 Al-Qaeda heads. Little perspective there. Okay.
No, that's not perspective, because you don't know the one situation doesn't necessarily have to anything to do with the other situation. This guy was all right. Best case scenario, this guy was having a fucking shitty day. And is it shitty that Mexico is being dicks about it? It sure is. It sure super, super is. Like, I don't want to take nothing away from the fact that that's bullshit.
Oh, my argument right there was just to say that it wasn't forced propaganda, because you wouldn't be able to have that news story while you were forcing pro-American propaganda.
But you'll never hear this story go this way about a Mexican Marine who accidentally crossed into the border with a truck full of guns.
I think you would. I really think you. I think if the Mexican army guy, whatever,
Whatever they have.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Federale or something.
I
Well,
don't-
probably not
whatever.
a Federale.
I have no idea. Accidentally made a wrong turn and had to hit the toll booth and was like, I need to just loop around to get back. I don't think he'd get searched.
No, you get that kind of shit. You hear a lot of... all right. Anecdotally speaking, you hear a lot of shit about people having a hard time when they accidentally cross the Mexican-American border either way. Why didn't he just turn around in the median? Do they not have medians? Is it like a long
The
tunnel?
borders are packed when you get to them.
Yeah.
Once you get caught up into the traffic of things, you're frozen on an expressway with toll booths and bumper-to-bumper traffic. We're not just sneaking across the border of the night here. We're driving across the declared border.
Let this be a lesson to you. If this should happen to you, abandon your fucking car. It's not worth it.
Take your guns and run, brother.
Those Mexicans, leave the guns, whatever. Just get the fuck by. Well, no, you wouldn't want to do that because they're
not
illegal.
American are you? Grab those guns and run.
Well, I'm just saying, if you
Case
like
the Mexicans
got out of your
attack.
car anywhere near the border and started unloading guns in a traffic jam,
That might
you
be
might
a
be looking
problem.
for trouble. So,
Don't mind me and my M16, you motherfucker.
what does Mexico have to say about this?
Mexican authorities say that he's going to have to stand his day in trial in court,
Well, I mean,
and it's their right to detain him until then. I would like to throw this little fact in here. The Marine called 911 after realizing he had accidentally entered Mexico and had 3 guns in his truck. Not a truck full of guns.
who answered
3
911?
guns.
Or was it
Well,
Nueve
he probably
Uno
called
Uno?
on. He probably called on his American registered cell phone. So 911.
It doesn't
closest
say.
Dispatch answered no.
Damn it, this story doesn't have any of the answers I so desperately want. This is just a story about
Whatever
what-
probably closest Texas city is there. So
Well, he was coming from California. I
oh
thought
yeah,
you said.
yeah, you're right. He was.
Yeah.
So whatever California city is closest would be, I don't know, San Diego, something. Close.
San Fierro, San Andreas. I don't know.
San Diego,
Okay.
San Ysidro.
I thought San
Say it
Diego.
again?
San Diego's up by Washington.
The San Ysidro
Yeah.
border crossing between San Diego and Tijuana.
Well, it turns out, Corey, that I know more about Middle East geography than I do about Western United States geography.
Welcome to the American education system, sir.
Yep.
That's what failed.
What happens?
That's what failed you.
Whatever.
Whatever.
So, I mean, this is
I just-
definitely a very specific story.
I brought this up because I wanted your opinion on whether you think that there being neighboring countries and ones that have tended to be allies, maybe we should just play a little ball of understanding here.
Well, it's not really up to us to play the ball. We need them to play ball if we want to get our boy home. But our boy fucked up, man. He definitely, he fucked. I mean, it happens. Yeah.
Okay, well that shit happens, and maybe someday when their boy fucks up, or we're going to be expected to play ball.
Do we play ball with them?
Yeah, I think we probably play more ball than they play with us because I'm not saying we have the luxury of playing ball.
Not in this situation. In this situation, it's their luxury.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying is that we probably, do a lot of back scratching. I'm sure there's some money flowing that way through legal and illegal means.
This is a situation. This specific Marine's plight is a very, very specific situation that we do not have anywhere near enough specific information to make even general guesses about what's what or what. As far as what do I think? I think that he fucked up and he's having a bad day, and I sure think it sucks that Mexico's not letting him back, but it sucks all the time.
4 months so far, and he got his first day in court.
Well, that's the court.
Nothing
I mean,
got accomplished.
that's the Mexican court system. Honestly, dude, you're a gun owner. You have a responsibility to know what road you're on,
I think,
and you're a Marine. You got. I mean,
there's a little. I think, I think there's a little bit of a problem when the guy looked at the toll agent and said, I made a mistake. I'm an American citizen. I have legally registered firearms in the truck. I'm declaring them to you because it's the law. And I just need to get home. You can escort me through the border. But then as soon as he
Well, it's not up to
pulls
him.
in,
It's not up to him how they respond to the situation. It's not his business.
And then they say okay, and let him pull into the friggin' country.
Is that what happened?
Yes, he has stopped at the toll booth, declared a situation. They let him pull into the country, and after they pulled into the country, they popped him.
Shit happens, man. That sucks. It sucks. That sucks.
And
but
we have no
dude allowed himself to be in a shitty situation.
We have no leverage or good faith to maybe let something accidental like this. Now I get why you popped him, but maybe at this point where we've said, okay, mistakes were made, we apologize, the kid didn't mean any wrong. Where's the neighborly love?
On the other hand, how do they know that this guy's not some fucking insurgent or something who just got cold feet? How do they know that? How do they know that he wasn't just some arms dealer that got cold feet and tried to get out of it? They don't know that. That's why they have to go to court. He's going to get his due process. Well, unfortunately, it's slow.
This arms dealer and his 3 legally registered guns in his name are really must have gotten some cold feet because he told not only the border guard but called 911 because he felt that it was an emergency. Then he declared himself.
I'm not saying that that's what I think, Corey. I'm saying that that is a legitimate legal argument. And perhaps it's in their best interest as Mexican border guards to take note of that, just like American border guards would.
Of course they would. And they detained the person. But I'm pretty sure by now the system would have been worked out with a little bit of fucking diplomacy. And I go with the fact that we can't make a deal with our neighbor for maybe not just a Marine. Maybe we make a deal with our neighbor that says when accidents like this happen,
should we
there's
be able to play
negotiations
ball?
here.
Sure.
But we're willing to trade one man for 5 known leaders of Al-Qaeda. I'm just saying.
Well, Mexico doesn't want leaders of Al-Qaeda.
But we're not willing to play. We're not even willing to try to play
You don't
ball.
know the specifics of that deal. You don't know that that's a completely...
The government's come out and said that they're not going to try to get the kid back because he's got to face his day in court.
Because he's not anybody important, apparently. He fucked up. He wasn't on some fucking mission. He fucked up.
Yeah.
He made a personal error, and he's got personal responsibilities to deal with it. And it sucks that Mexico's being pricks about it. But them's the breaks.
But they didn't. Okay. Because we're just going to argue about it all night long.
What can you tell me about this counter argument that you have about these Al-Qaeda people?
It's because they got a shot. There was a conversation had. At least there was a conversation open. And not only was a conversation open, they had a shot. They got the shot.
But why?
This kid's a closed case. And anybody else who does this, is not just this kid, maybe he's an example. And you asked me for my opinion. Let me give it to you. This kid's maybe just a specific example, but maybe he's an example of a larger case of sometimes the shit happens and we're not willing to negotiate to try to help innocent people, but we are willing to negotiate.
Well, he's not innocent. He's not innocent.
And neither is the guy who has 2 beers and happens to be above the legal limit.
I agree with that. Also, he's not innocent.
However, it does seem to fall in the vein of making criminals out of people who make mistakes.
I don't argue for Mexico's domestic gun trafficking policy. I don't know enough about it. But if I were a gun-owning Marine anywhere near the Mexican border, I would try to be aware of the fact that I was a gun-toting Marine anywhere near the Mexican border. And if I fucked that up, that's kind of on me. That's part of the right of having guns, is the right of your own personal responsibility for those guns. Dude fucked up, man. It sucks. It super duper duper sucks. You're not going to get me to say it didn't suck, but you're also not going to say that. You're not going to get me to say that American diplomacy should step in and help this kid out. What are we going to help every Marine out who gets a traffic ticket now? So he's out 4 months. I get that sucks. He fucked up. He's one person that
In
fucked
Mexican
up.
prison, you go to Mexican prison for 4 months.
No, you know why? I won't do that because I'm not going to find myself in a situation where I have 3 guns in my car and accidentally am on the Mexican border.
And I'm not saying that specific situation would happen to you.
But that's what happened to this kid.
But accidents do happen, and maybe you do make a mistake someday.
It would take a fuck of an accident for me to end up on the fucking Mexican border with 3 guns in my truck.
What I'm saying is the specific example might not apply to you exactly. But mistakes are made by normal people. And maybe someday, if you make that mistake and you're being punished for it, over fairly,
What if you leave a baby in the car and it dies?
there's a punishment to fit that crime, but it should be taken into account that there was an accident involved, that it wasn't a malicious, intentful thing.
And that's taken into account, but you're still going to sit in jail for a while you wait for your court date.
But the punishment should fit the crime.
They're not talking about punishments. We don't know what the punishment is for this guy.
Especially,
we're talking about time served. He's got 4 months in Mexican jail, which sucks a butt.
unable to even post a bail, get a reprieve.
That's Mexico, dude.
None of it.
Hey, man, you should have been accidentally in Canada.
I don't think at the Canadian-American border there'd have been a lot of
Oh, you got some guns there, eh? Listen, we're going to have to politely ask you to turn your happy ass around and head on back into the States, okay?
How do you envision a Mountie escorting them around the border?
I certainly don't envision a Mountie escorting them through the border just so that a bunch of Mounties could stomp on them. But I could see a Canadian accidentally bringing guns into the north border of America and us pulling the same shit, even if they were a Canadian Marine.
Not in a million fucking years.
I am a Canadian Marine, eh? I am here on accident. Yes, you are, sir. And now you're going to jail for 4 months because you don't have the writ of habeas corpus here either. As a domestic terrorist, they would call you because you. I'm just saying.
Diplomacy.
Probably not from a Canadian, but still, they would go to jail and you wouldn't even hear about it. It wouldn't even make the news.
They'd be home in 48 hours.
It wouldn't even make the news. But because this guy's an American Marine.
And he's going to be there he's been there for 4 months so
that
far.
Sucks.
And
that
the kid,
sucks.
I guess, I don't know how the laws work, but how do we know the kid can't get the death penalty for it? Does that sound fair? Now, I'm not saying that's what can happen.
What am I going to...
Couldn't it?
Well, I'm not saying that just because this happened, the fucking space-time continuum won't rip itself apart. But I didn't know we were just conjecting things out of thin air.
Well, why
now.
not? It's our show. I asked you a question. What if? What if the kid got the death penalty for it? Would that be fair? Would that be okay with you?
It wouldn't be, but it's not okay with me that somebody spends 4 months in Mexican jail. But them's the breaks. Those are the laws. That's how it works. That's the system that you accidentally fucking crossed into.
So if 6 months from now I give you a follow-up report that the kid's fucking dead by firing squad,
dude,
you're gonna say them's the breaks?
The Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland.
I was like, where the fuck are you going?
Did not have a particularly just approach to trespassers. However, if they had cut Alice's head off, all of fucking Britain wouldn't have gone to war with Wonderland. It wouldn't have happened. They would have just been like, well, she did kind of trespass. Argue that.
Did you just... Well, congratulations, sir. You totally shut me down. I don't know if it means you necessarily took the point, but you definitely shut me down. My brain went haywire. You used a fictional scenario across an unrealistic possible real life scenario.
As though conjecting that he's going to get the death penalty is
But to say that Britain didn't go to war with Wonderland, it's beyond my reasoning. It's beyond my reasoning to understand that an entire nation didn't declare war on a fictional place.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, all right, Mexico is a real place, but so it's unfair.
And I'm not saying
it's unfair. What are you saying? What should we do about it?
I'm
Corey?
not saying we should declare war. We could have asked We're not even asking.
We can't become.
Hey, man,
If
cut
this
the kids
guy-
some slack. Or, hey, let's come up with a way that we can reasonably understand that this is kind of an accident thing, and accidents will happen, and we'll set up a policy.
What if he's on a mission and he fucked up?
That's possible. You're absolutely right.
Well, then we can't
But I don't
we can't
know-
take responsibility for that.
But I don't know that that's what's most likely. And I think probably when we're setting up the structure that is our lives, we should probably plan on most likely, not least likely.
You're saying that.
No? Yeah.
When are the Bills leaving Ralph Wilson Stadium?
That's pertinent.
I'm purposely making up a fictional scenario to try to
Really, Wonderland boy?
Yeah. Let's move on.
Fine with me.
So, good news from California. From the Los Angeles Times. Julie Shemitz watched warily as the judge asked prospective jurors whether they or anyone close to them had a card for medical marijuana. 10 hands lifted, a third of the jury pool. Look at all those hands, the judge said. An assistant U.S. attorney, Shemitz, knew that this would be a problem. The defendant, Noah Kleinman, ran a North Hollywood pot dispensary. Federal prosecutors rarely target medical dispensaries these days, but they accused Kleinman of using the shop as a front to sell large quantities of marijuana to other distributors in the Los Angeles.
To feed in the black market as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They
And I suppose you'll have that.
Shemitz felt the assistant U.S. attorney, the federal attorney, Shemitz, felt that she had a strong case. Drug Enforcement Administration agents had emails, ledgers, surveillance records, and witnesses, including Kleinman's partner, employees, growers, and out-of-state buyers. They had this guy dead to nuts.
Yeah, well, you're fucked.
For pot.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're feeding the black market,
Okay,
but
well,
like,
yeah, well, I guess.
where are you going to find an unbiased juror, dicks?
I guess. Well, that's a problem.
That's what this story. That's what this story is about.
That's a major problem.
But she feared that the broadening acceptance of marijuana and California's medical pot laws would bias the jury into thinking that Kleinman had not committed a crime.
Okay.
He did.
I think. Okay, I gotta be careful how I word things here. I think the average marijuana smoker would probably feel that what he did was still a crime, even though it was pot related.
You got caught, dude. Sucks for you.
Not all things that are pot related are not a crime. There's a lot of things that are pot related that are not a crime, or at least they shouldn't be. It's a more specific way to say that.
Well, that's but then you got to figure out what those things are.
Well, then, and that's the way the system works. There's certain levels of things that become inappropriate. When you're acting inside the confines of the law in an illegal industry, providing a product, or in this case, medicine, which is a product, to a prescribed situation, you're working within the confines of the law totally. When you decide to take this situation and move into a black market situation where you're no longer working inside the confines of the law, I think everybody, I gotta be careful how I word this, I think the majority of marijuana users are going to recognize this as a crime. Especially since the question to the jurors was, how many of you have a prescription for medical marijuana? So the 10 hands that raised were all people who followed the law and obtained their marijuana through legal means. Whether they were just or not, they did acquire it through legal means. Now, maybe the other 10 hands or 8 hands or whatever was left,
20
didn't raise their hand because either they didn't use marijuana at all, or maybe some of them just acquired it illegally.
Could be.
And weren't going to admit that out
That was
loud.
not the question that the judge asked. was how many of you smoke pot
No, it was how many have prescriptions for medical marijuana.
or are related to those who do.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch the related part. That
I mean, that doesn't really, it doesn't change your argument that there might be some people in the crowd that lied.
well, yeah, that's also true too. So it's probably even a larger number of people who are using it, but would probably still agree that what he did was a crime. So I don't know how much tainted the jury pool is.
Well, what if he might spend 24 years in federal prison for it? And that's not just some
That's
made
a
up.
fair point.
I didn't just make that
I
up.
know.
That's right there. That's what he's facing.
I figured.
24 years.
And that's a fair point as well. I mean,
In a state where it's medically legal, in a country where 2 states it's fun times legal, and
wow,
in-
you said it was disdain.
we're like 16 states, I think we're up to now.
Whatever.
23 states medical.
At least some.
We're up to
form of
it
medical.
changes so often. Forgive me for not having it right the very first time, but 23 states. And Washington, D.C. approve pot for medical use. How about we just come to recognize you're not going to find jurors that aren't biased against you. You can't do it. Because if they're not biased one way, they're biased the other way. So therefore, they're all fucking biased.
Well, I guess you got a point there, but maybe the same could be said for a lot of different subjects because people have a tendency to be opinionated.
Meanwhile, it's a good point. Marijuana is still classified as a Schedule 1
Oh,
narcotic,
ridiculous. Okay, I have no argument for
making
you
it more dangerous than methamphetamine, cocaine, or Oxycontin.
I mean, and even on a black market, you broke the law. It's a legal thing, which
But
I think
almost-
we agree. It's ridiculous.
Almost half the states legal for medical use.
But it's a level 1 narcotic.
But it's worse than cocaine
To
or
federal levels.
methamphetamine. Methamphetamine destroys agriculture. Like, it doesn't just destroy lives, it destroys like plants and shit. Like, it is not, there's nothing right about that drug, but that's not even true. There probably are actually right uses for that drug.
There actually are some medical uses for the drug, but
The this
most people are turning Sudafed into meth in their fucking bathtubs.
this assistant U.S. attorney, I don't think most people are, but I think most people that
Make meth.
do that. Yeah.
You knew what I meant.
This assistant U.S. attorney, Shimitz, a 57-year-old, soft-spoken, self-described nice Jewish girl from a liberal family in Connecticut who started prosecuting federal narcotics cases more than 20 years ago in Washington, D.C., has no grievances with the plant or the people that smoke it. She wouldn't care if Congress made it legal, but it hasn't, and she believes the Justice Department, to remain credible, must enforce the law. Listen, you stupid,
girl.
you stupid nice. If
Whoa.
if you're the prosecutor and you don't actually have a problem with it, why the fuck are you prosecuting it?
It's your job.
Where's your fucking principles?
Uh,
Where's your principles? What are you? Are you your job or are you your principles?
I think I agree with you on a personal level because my job is different, but I could also see where there are pressures, especially in this economy, to bend to the will of those who provide your income.
I'm willing. I'm all right.
I'm not saying it's a tough subject for me. And I think in your position, you might tell a boss to shove it if it really went against your core principles.
Yes.
But maybe if you were in a higher position or you were working towards an even higher position, as sometimes people who are in the law
Oh,
field
sure.
are,
We all make compromises, but
might
this
be willing
woman
to make
makes
that
her.
kind of compromise.
This woman makes her entire living prosecuting people who she has no grievance with. It's just that it's illegal, so she can make money off of prosecuting people for it. That's horse shit.
I guess
You ruin people. Like, there's a big difference between fucking. Well, all right. There's a moderate difference between selling people cars that they can't afford and sending somebody to jail for 24 years. At least selling the car they can't afford, at least they came to you. This guy got scooped up for selling people something they wanted.
That should have no business being illegal.
And this prosecutor, the person fighting this battle, has no stake in the game other than it pays her rent.
Well, that's kind of stake. And maybe she's looking towards a future career where something like this would look very good on the resume. That's kind of stake. Maybe it's not a noble stake, but it's in motivation.
There's an old war quote, an old hippie quote that says, "What if they had a war and nobody came? What if they had a trial and nobody was there to prosecute? What if the prosecutors were just like, no, you know what, we're done? Because the jurors are already like, nah, we're good."
But isn't that the point of jurors, is to measure people by,
Yes,
a
and
jury
that,
of your peers?
and jurors showing up and saying, and voting against the law in the jury and saying we're not said that the law is wrong. That's both jurisprudence and it's called jury nullification. And it goes back to colonial jurors who refused to convict Americans accused of violating unpopular British trade laws.
Thank you for the fact.
Thank the Los Angeles Times for that fact.
Oh, yeah. See how we tie it around? Professional.
Speaking of professional,
Yeah, that's my
Corey,
last story.
like one of your all-time favorite professional radiocasters
Radiocaster.
is going through some hoopla right now. Would you like to talk about it?
Hoopla. Hoopla means he's finished. He's done. He's out of here, pal. It's the wrap. It's the end of the game. Hit the road, Jack.
Good for him for having good timing.
Probably. Actually, that as the wheel spins, it turns out that might actually be
For the podcast.
exactly the case.
For the podcast listener who has no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Besides interjecting some fact, I'll give you a headline. Fired Sirius XM host of the Opie and Anthony show, Anthony Cuba, says, "I will never apologize. I didn't do anything wrong." That's because Anthony Cumia, half of the Opie and Anthony show on Sirius XM, has been fired for his tweets that came through right before the 4th of July, on July 3rd, actually, literally right before. Apparently what had happened is that Anthony, who's an amateur photographer, was in Times Square taking photographs.
Wait. We're all amateur photographers. This is the 21st century.
He has a $7,000 camera.
Big deal. I have a fucking $200 Android phone with a camera on it I take pictures with. I'm an amateur photographer. Doesn't matter. To me, that's not the important part of this story.
He enjoys it as well-known. He enjoys it as a hobby.
Apparently not to this lady.
When he captured somebody in frame in public who didn't appreciate the picture being taken.
She certainly has a right to say, I don't want you to take a video of me.
A video, okay. It was
Or a picture, I'm sorry. A photo. She
has the right to not be happy about it, but she doesn't necessarily have the right to have it not happen because you're in public. You have no expectation of privacy in public, and that includes photographs and video surveillance. In fact, they say you're in some sort of video surveillance at all times if you're outside your own house.
Is there a Supreme Court decision that lends weight to that, do you think?
I'm pretty sure, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay. I didn't expect you to know.
But I
do
do know that you have no expectation of privacy in public. You have no expectation of privacy on a public phone, like a payphone.
That's a good argument.
You have no expectation of privacy on a public internet, like a library service.
However, you do have the social contract has a push-pull.
And I agree with you.
Where, if I said, cool, if you took a picture, if I didn't know you from Adam, or even if I did know, even if I was like, Corey, why are you taking a picture of me right now? I would expect that,
oh, I'm sorry, I'll delete that.
Right. But my next step, if you were like, I've just taken pictures, my next step probably wouldn't be
to attack you violently, calling you a white motherfucker, and striking you in the head repeatedly.
It would be
I
weird.
have to add, as much as I hate how the media uses it, I do have to add allegedly, because this is Anthony's side of the story.
Yeah.
What I just said.
I don't think he's a known liar.
No, he's not. He's actually known for the exact opposite. He's known for being brutally honest. But there is no police report because he says he didn't bother to call the police over such a petty incident.
Right.
When the NYPD have more important things
No,
to
I mean,
handle.
the incident itself is not I mean, it's, it is like I'd be pissed off about it, but I wouldn't probably call the police. What are you going to do? Some random black girl beat me up a little bit.
And as of my information now, nobody's gotten a hold of the woman in the incident.
That is amazing.
I know.
That is astounding to me.
Well, hours later, after Anthony got home, still angry after being physically assaulted for accidentally taking a picture of
Hell
somebody,
yeah, man. I'd be pissed off too.
he took to Twitter. His personal Twitter.
You can't do that.
And
you'll lose your job you barely need.
And I quote, "The cunt animal kept walking into my arm. I had up as blocking saying, 'Don't touch me.'" Remember, this is Twitter. Grammar's not great.
He put his arm up and said, "Don't touch me."
And then she would hit me. I hope a homeboy beats her to death. I'm condemning my own. I'm reading the tweets and I'm reading them out of context. I'm reading them out of that anger.
That's the thing about tweets. They are out of context.
And I'm doing this. I'm doing this willingly. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're doing. I know.
Another tweet, and there were a lot of them. This isn't all of them. These are
no.
samples.
He went on and had a Twitter rant.
He had a rant.
You don't have to edge. I know about
which he's known for.
Yes.
Which he's known for.
Yes.
Quote: savage, violent animals fucking prey on white people. Easy targets. This cunt had no clue how lucky she was. She belted me 10 times. I own a gun. And I'd like to point out, stop here for a second. I own a gun. Anthony is one of the very, very, very few people who have
in New York City who have a concealed carry.
Carry permit in New York City. That's because he went through all the hoops as a legal gun owner. He's been responsible. He's never had a criminal record.
It's also because he's one of the elite.
He's not the kind of guy who would pull a gun in this situation, even if he had been jumped by men.
No, but he did feel the need to come out and say it, like it should have even been part of the equation.
And I agree with your point.
He didn't need to say that. You don't pull out a gun because somebody punches you.
But maybe for some people to think in the future that before you resort to violence on somebody who's seeking a photograph, they might turn around and shoot you.
Well, obviously, this woman is not in his audience, or she'd be all over Oprah right now.
And I wanted to bring this up, and I've been torn about this, right? Because I felt like I didn't want to bring it up because I am emotionally tied to the story, and I didn't want to just bring my own tilted point of view to the table.
Do you want my point of view?
I'm going to in a second.
Oh, all right. I'll just sit here and think about other things until then.
You should probably do that. Mm-hmm. And I also wasn't sure if I wanted to cover it because every radio program and podcast, I swear to God, I'm going to stab you in the eye. Where's my cigar? I'm lighting it on fire.
I was thinking about other things.
Poke you with.
Wow.
Damn it.
Yes.
You suck.
Your opinion on this thing.
I didn't want to necessarily. I also thought about not bringing it up because everybody and their brother was going to do this story, and everybody and their brother has done this story.
Well, it's very relevant.
I thought maybe sometimes we do things where we avoid the story that everybody else. I said doo-doo. Where we avoid the story that everybody else did so that we could do a story that nobody's doing.
Well, but this is a show that happens to exist because we both like talk radio. So, I mean, it's okay for us to talk. And the reason so many people talk about Opie and Anthony is because Opie and Anthony is I don't think we're the only two people who do podcasts that were inspired by that.
By that
duo. I don't think our show is their show, and I don't think we try to make it their show or anything of the sort. I don't think anything like that at all. But I do think that if it wasn't for that show, neither one of us would have thought to be doing this.
I could almost guarantee that.
Yeah.
I could almost guarantee that. But I feel that I wanted to bring it up on the show because we did Kimberly and Beck a couple of weeks ago.
That's true. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
And it was a decent show. And you know why it was a decent show and it was a little bit different than this one? It's because we both didn't really like the program that they did. So we were able to make a little bit of light while we were discussing the fact that we both agree they should still be able to do their terrible program, we both agree that just as their right to say it, their right to fire them, and the fans' right to be
What
upset.
about Opie and Anthony?
Here's where I wanted to have a conversation. And
Don't you think?
Oh, go on.
Don't you think that they? I mean, you listen to their show more than I do. A lot. Like I haven't listened to their show in years, more than I do. But it seems to
I'm
me
an active listener.
based on what I've heard, it sounds like they were about fucking done anyway. Like
Okay.
it sounds like they weren't really serious about staying with Sirius. No pun intended. No, I really meant that.
I know, but it did happen to turn out that way.
It sounded like they were planning on leaving anyway. And I gotta say,
Okay.
there is nothing that they can't do on a podcast. Like leaving Sirius XM is probably the best fucking thing they could do right now. And I know that like Opie and Jimmy are like stuck with the show.
Yes, and here's where...
But only for what? Till October?
But it's
Come
still...
on.
Okay.
That's going to be a good show.
And I kind of explained this to Bill, too. It's a divide and conquer technique, okay? You try to split the popularity of the fans from the show. That's why when you do regular radio, you have non-competes. Even if you get fired or you walk yourself, you can't do radio for a competing company for X amount of months.
Can you do a podcast? Because I don't think they need to be doing
No, they
radio.
can't. They can't stop you from that.
They can't. Yeah. All right. Okay.
But let me
Good. I thought it sounded like you were about to say they couldn't do that.
No.
And I was ready to react.
No. They can't
They
stop you
can
from doing that.
They can do a podcast.
Yes. And Anthony is planning on it. But what they did successfully at this moment was split the fan base.
Not for long.
Because not everybody's going to be able to keep up with both shows. So, the reason why, and to bring it back, the reason why traditional radio does that, they won't let you work on another radio station for X amount of months, is because they're hoping you'll lose the heat.
Well, yeah, because if Weeze had left CMF and gone right to Fox,
The next week,
the Fox,
everyone would have just turned their dial.
The
and it
break
would have been a
room would have
wrap.
crashed and burned. But unfortunately, the break room wasn't available for crashing and burning until they took Bill Moran off of it. And that's not to say that Tommy's not like capable of running a show. It is to say that Billy added. He was a good controller for that show. They probably should have just paid him.
The reason why they do it is that they hope that your fans forget you, or at least a good chunk of them. And for the casual listener, that's exactly what happens. They're not wrong. There's psychology behind it. And that's what they've effectively done with this scenario. By just firing him and not canceling the show, what they've done was they've minimized the damage of losing probably one of their largest assets entirely.
I don't think, but here's the thing. I don't think they're minimizing what is effective. I mean, they had to do, they actually didn't have to do anything. You know what? One of my favorite things
That's
I've heard.
also a point.
You know what? One of my favorite things I've heard about people doing in protest of this. This is my favorite protest this year so far. People have been sending rap lyrics from songs they heard on other Sirius stadiums.
Shade 45, the M&M station, is the biggest culprit so far.
They've been tweeting those at Sirius and being like, "Why is it okay to play rap music that has all this racial language, but it's not okay for Anthony to call somebody an animal, a savage,
and a cunt animal, and a cunt animal, and a savage."
That's not racist. White people were savage. Like all people were savage at one. There's nothing racist about calling somebody a savage. Savage is a state of being.
White people are particularly savage.
Right. There's not. It's not racist to call somebody a savage, and it's not racist to call somebody an animal
or an animal.
We're all fucking animals. At very worst, he used the sexist N-bomb when he called her a cunt, but it was on Twitter.
Oh, well, and that's the tie around. As we discussed Kimberly and Beck, and these people lost their job for things they said on the air on company
on their
time.
radio station
On company
right.
time. I'm sure there's some morality clause in their contract, and whether that's right or wrong is beside the fact.
Well, that's up to the
people who sign the contract.
Until we're talking about healthcare, then I feel completely different about it.
It's up to the people who sign the contract to read their contract and understand what they're getting themselves into, and I understand that. But is it okay to censor somebody in their private life by using their professional life to hang over their head. Now, again, we're arguing the fate of a millionaire.
Well,
he made $3 million a year from Sirius XM. He doesn't need the job. He's good, and he's actually doing his own thing now. He's his own website. He's going to be charging $6 a month to do his own thing, and you can subscribe to it.
You know what? Good news. Good news. Opie and Anthony are going to be fine. They're going to make a podcast. They're going to make money doing their podcast. And even if they don't make money, they're fucking, how much? They're millionaires.
Yeah, $3 million.
Millionaires.
The two of them, O and A.
Yeah.
We're not talking about their support staff.
No.
And Jimmy.
Whatever. Their support staff can get other jobs.
And Jimmy.
Jimmy's fine.
He could be fine.
Jimmy's probably fine. You know what? And if he's not,
he doesn't make a tenth of what they make.
And I love Jim Norton, but if he's not okay, that's his bad.
But there's also a lot of guys behind the scenes.
They're going to go make a podcast. They're going to pay those same people to be behind the scenes. They're going to make their same show. They'll probably run a fucking network. And those same people, the ones that made an impression on them, will probably be fine. They'll probably make a job for themselves with them, with Opie and Anthony. I mean, and then Sirius is going to need somebody to fill a show. Somebody else is going to get a shot.
Oh, they might.
Or they might drop the network. Whatever.
They might be boned.
You know what?
Or you might have a good point. Maybe somebody up and coming gets a shot.
If Sirius is boned, Sirius is boned because it's boned. Who's paying? I just don't understand it. Myself, I don't understand who's paying money for fucking what I can get. Like, I pay money for Rhapsody, but I get to pick.
Hey, Stace.
Huh.
I have a great idea.
What's that?
We're going to offer a radio service that you can get from coast to coast. And how we're going to do that is we're going to launch $1 billion satellite into the air.
Right. Because that makes sense.
And that's going to provide signal.
Because this is 1996.
Coast to coast, and people will be able to have the same radio stations.
It wasn't a bad business plan when it was first hatched.
What happens to satellites?
But that they executed that plan. That they weren't like, wait, there's a totally... By the time they were ready to launch, somebody should have been like, hey, wait, this is fucking stupid.
There's this thing called the internet.
Yeah. There's already satellites that'll spread it around.
I got to ask you a question. What happens to satellites when they when they've lived their time, when they've done their rotations? What happens to most of our satellites?
They crash into the ocean.
And it cost how much? $1 billion?
I don't know. Much.
This is $1 billion was the first one.
Private money though.
This is a viable business solution, or the internet that's just.
At the time that they were thinking about Sirius, the internet wasn't what it is yet. And so there was reason to think that there would be a radio market. But honestly, by the time they were launching, by the time Howard Stern did his last FM show, the people at Sirius XM, the two different companies, ought to have been able to look at the market and be like, wait, MP3s? We can't compete with that.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is why I wanted to talk about this, because I him and hawed, but I knew I wanted to have this conversation with you. How about this? As a couple of guys who are trying to make a splash or two in the alternative, the podcast and the internet entertainment media, how do you feel about a dog so big moving into town? Now, mind you, there's big dogs already, right? Like we're nobody's nobody compared to Marin, Corolla, Kevin Smith, Rogan. Nobody's nobody compared to these guys, right? O&A, or the number 2 probably radio guys of all time, or at least popular time, move into the internet base. They're going to be the big dog on campus. No
well, I'll
question.
tell you, Corey, I feel great about it because I will finally have an opportunity. They won't be the big dog to me.
But do you think...
But I will be able to listen to their show again, and that's going to be happy. But if they're doing a daily show, I'm not going to listen to it.
Well, of course they do a daily show. They're good at it. They have the ability
to
sure
do
20 hours of content a week.
But that's not for me.
And well, you can pick and choose, of course, I'd imagine.
Sure. I feel like that's good competition. They're not going to be taking... It's not a zero-sum game in podcasting. First off, they're not going to have any influence on our numbers whatsoever. Secondly, what do you think?
I think that I might disagree with that. Not necessarily directly our numbers, but people like us. Because one of two things can happen. Either they devour the entire market, which I don't necessarily believe would happen, or on the other side, maybe on the positive side, is that a name like that really brings some attention to our hobby, our genre, our outlet, our media. We joke all the time about how many podcasts there are and about how many people are into podcasting and doing podcasts and how it's hard to stand out in a market so flooded. But yet, when you walk around from day to day, how many people know that you know, or that you meet, maybe people you know have been educated, what a podcast is or what internet radio is altogether? I tell people constantly, I'm constantly preaching the word of podcast and internet radio and web shows and
I think
things
that
like the alternative media.
All right, okay. I think that O&A fans know what a podcast is.
Probably they probably do. And the diehards, the heavy duties, probably partake in podcasts because they want to hear what Rogan and Marin and Carolla say. But these kind of radio personalities also lend an ear to people that are more casual, but maybe enough that they would follow them to the net. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure, Corey, yes.
And
they will obviously. I think it's obvious that they will bring people to podcasts.
So, do they devour the market or do they stimulate the market?
I don't see them devouring the market. I don't believe in that.
Are they Microsoft?
Absolutely not. I can't imagine that that's reasonable at all. Like, I can't even see that as a possibility that one radio show who already brought people to podcasting and brings people regularly to podcasting, I cannot see them destroying the market. That's insane to me. You don't need a big listenership to have a podcast. Like, and the people that do currently have big listenerships, they're not going to lose listenership because there's another show on.
How about this one? Ready? Let's say you have about 25 to 30,000 fans, which is who signed the petition for Anthony to get his job back, which would be ridiculous. What if they all paid the $6 or $7 a month it's going to be for Anthony's show? That's a lot of money.
He's going to charge monthly for his show?
Well, yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's going to do a subscription. He's going to have 2 hours a day.
Oh, that's fucking bullshit. All right, so what you're telling me is
Plus
I still won't be able to listen
content
to their stupid show because I'm not going to pay for it.
I guess the point is that eventually he would like to get to the point where he could have enough ad space, live read stuff, that he wouldn't have to charge for it. But right now he's sinking so much money into making it a big viable option.
Anthony's an old school fucking radio guy, and he I really love his radio show.
$3 million a year,
but he's also like, honestly, dude, at $3 million a year, you need to keep making that kind of money. You couldn't just like.
No, but he's still going to want to expect to make $1 for his talent.
Yeah, make $1. I bet Rogan makes $1. He's got talent.
I'm not saying I wouldn't be unwilling to pay for it, and maybe this is why.
I am saying I would not pay for.
You already were. I was already willing to pay for the O&A. I was willing to pay for the Opie, Anthony, and Jimmy show.
Yeah,
and now
I
think I might be willing to pay less for just the Anthony show. I wouldn't pay the same amount. It'd be ridiculous. But I might be willing to pay a little bit less for the Anthony show. And I might let Open Gym do their thing until they're ready to come aboard, if they ever come aboard.
Well, you're going to have to. You can't, like...
Well, I still have...
Oh, I see. You still have to pay for their 2 subscriptions now.
Well, a bunch of people went on a big tear on Twitter how they were going to cancel their subscriptions, and they sent in videos and screen caps of them canceling their subscriptions. And I said it publicly on Twitter to these people that I don't know that I'm willing to cancel my subscription yet, because I'm not sure that I'm willing yet to pull my support from Opie and Jim, the other 2 people that were involved in this.
Who are also completely fine.
But I'm a fan, and I want, even if my support is for naught, because even if he could get his job back, he'd be retarded to take it. It shows to him that there's support from his fans, that we'd like to see him continue, and vice versa. I'd hate to cancel my subscription to support Anthony, and then Opie and Jim's careers die.
I don't see that as happening. Whatever. They're fucking radio giants, dude. And when they come to podcasting, which is what they should do, they're not going to lose a fucking thing because it's what they should do. And you know what we should do? We should pour some fucking tea. Folks, this has been your episode of AirWreckRadio tonight. Please tweet us at CPainRun. Tweet me at AWR Stace Ghost. And tweet the show at AirWreckRadio. Tell us what you thought of the different format tonight with no breaks. No breaks tonight.
Please tweet me, too, because I have more that I want to talk about this and go on and on and on.
Corey really wants to rant on and on and on forever and ever about...
And it happens.
The Opie and Anthony show. And it's a legitimate thing. So tweet us. Hit us up. Get the Facebook. See you next week.
Another wrong number, but someone tried to sell me something I can't even see. Well, I got the solution, how to deal with this insanity. Just sit down in my easy chair and take a big sip of my sassafras tea. Getting near evening, the sun going down. I guess I should shake a leg, climb in my car and roll downtown. Check out the city lights, all decked out in a tux and a tie. But I'm sitting in my easy chair, taking a sip of my sassafras tea. Jim, he got the willies and the worries on his mind, and the weight of the world putting pressure on his spine. Well, I got the solution.